Yes, but I'm more than happy to receive those letters, but I would stress, over the garages, the developer was pretty intransigent. So becomes a point where my powers, I can do my best to represent people and their best interests, but I cannot engage in any commercial representation. So there were some people who had bought off plans. They hadn't checked the measurements of the garages and things like this. The developer contested their point, etc., etc., etc. I can't get involved in any commercial transaction, any legal representation, or anything like that. It's not my. I can't be involved in that. Where I can be involved is if there is a community concern over, say, a shop, for instance. Now, I don't know how many people have written to me about it. I don't think many people have. I'm trying to think. I don't think anyone's written to me about it. I actually heard about it from Michael. So if 10, 15 letters arrived in my office in Westminster concerned about the fact that this shop hadn't appeared, I would then write a letter to the council and say, what's the situation with regards to retail outlets in Jennett's Park? It's part of the plan that they were going to get retail outlets. What's happened? I then would have received correspondence, probably along the lines of what Michael's explained this evening. That's the process, that's how it would have worked. At which point, I would then go back to the people and say, this is the response I've got. At that point, the constituent would say, well, I'm not happy about that, blah, 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 blah. In which case, then, I could have then started writing to the owners, trying to find out what the process is, where they are, and what stage they're actually in negotiation. But because nobody has written to me, sir, I'm pretty sure about that, I think I'm not being 100%, so if you have done so, it's because, with respect, we do get a huge amount of correspondence. But because there hasn't been a significant number of people writing to me, it hasn't sort of picked up on the radar. So I haven't gone, all right, there's a problem. Last week I had a meeting with the executive of Brecon Forest Council, which I do on a regular basis, just to keep myself aware of the situation. It didn't come up.
Okay.
So
in essence, then, basically what we need to do, if we're not happy with the response from the developers about anything, about garages, that's completely different, because that's you buying something that's not suitable. We don't buy shops, we don't buy things, they are provided.
But you bought a property with the promise of the shop.
No, I didn't buy.
So I understand.
No, I didn't buy a property with the promise of the shop. I bought a property with the community. And those things make up the community. The community split down the middle because of whatever reason. So the simple solution to this is if we're not happy, and you haven't got the response that we want from whoever it happens to be, we should write to you.
If you've gone to the person who's directly responsible for, in that case, planning or issues, and you've not had a response that you're happy with, then you come to me. Yes.
Okay. All right.
I wrote to you about the doctors and the shops. Can you remember what you replied to me?
No, I can't. So.
You said, thank you for your question about clamping on the estate. I haven't got a car, I can't drive.
Well, that's the state of my office.
I can't drive because of medical conditions, I have to use the bus. We went for a shop now. I was one of the very first people moved into Jennett's Park. I wouldn't say I was the first, I was the second person, I think. I've lived here longer than anybody else, so I've lived here without a shop that was promised. I wrote to the Advertising Standards Authority to get them to take that there was going to be doctor's surgery out of their things. After that, they were still telling people that there was going to be doctor's surgery. And there were going to be shops. And none of this has happened. We don't want a shopping centre. All we want is a convenience store where you just go get a pint of milk, a loaf of bread when you run out. You can't order that off Sainsbury's online. It takes 2 days to come at least. When it's snowing, you can't get it. They won't even come here when it's snowing. I know someone who went for a pint of milk and it cost them £14 by taxi or something like that. So, what if my mother lives in a small village, she got a shop, a village shop that sells the basic needs. I mean, it's a bit more expensive than other things, but it means if you run out of milk, you can go there. That's all I want. And it takes me hours and hours every week to walk to Great Hollands, get my milk, walk back here. I get a main, when I'm having my children over, I get a main delivery from Sainsbury's. Otherwise, I get things in bits and bobs by walking and cycling.
So what was the response?
If I couldn't cycle, if I didn't have the bus route, I wouldn't be able to get anything.
So what was the response of the council, sir, to your problems?
Well, the consortium of the council, they say, it's in the section 106, it says you've got to have this many houses before you do anything. They keep blaming the recession, saying they've stopped building houses because of the recession. I've never seen them stop building houses, I've never seen them stop selling houses. There's more and more houses going up, there's more and more there, you've still not got a shop.
Yeah.
And you say you can't do anything about it. Well, why do you rattle a few cages? You say you rattle cages,
Well,
we'll rattle them now.
Well, in view of the fact, sir, that there haven't been significant numbers of letters on the issue, I wasn't aware that it was a significant issue on Jones Park. Okay? Now I do know it is a significant issue.
Well, if you have letters, why do you not know it's a significant issue?
We have
If you
not
speak
had,
to your local councillors, they say it's an issue.
right, we have not had a significant number of letters on this issue.
Well, that's because you think they're about clamping.
I did get that camping, so and I wrote a number of letters to the developers on that issue.
Yes, and you wrote to me as well about clamping when I asked about shops and doctors.
That was probably...
You're a GP, you know how important it is to have a doctor.
I do, sir.
They were selling houses, we still are.
In defence of my office, sir,
There's a place over there that they can only build a doctor's at.
in defence of my office, sir, we get hundreds.
I understand you get hundreds
And
of letters. What I'm saying is that when you get these issues,
sometimes
when you are you going to rattle cages now? I mean, next week, when are you going to do it? When are you going to write
I will be writing a letter to the council about this.
And will you send me a copy of it then?
Of course I will, sir. Of course I will. If you would let me finish, if we dropped the ball on your letter, I apologise. But if we occasionally drop the ball, most private companies will take 2 to 3% error rate, okay? We're nowhere near that in my office. You know, we really do struggle with the amount of demands being placed on us. And it really is extremely difficult to manage that demand because we get subjected to email campaigns, 200 to 300 letters I had to sign only yesterday. Right, so if we make the occasional mistake, I apologise on the content of your letter, but it isn't surprising, sir, because we are flooded sometimes. It really is extremely difficult.
So I've got your guarantee now that you're going to do something about this. And you'll send me a copy of the letter or whatever you're going to do.
You have my guarantee, sir, that we're going to write a letter, but as I've made quite clear...
No, I understand.
I don't know
you can't do anything about it, but you...
Well, you say, well, it's not that I can't do anything about it. I'm just trying to stress...
I mean, you've got the Conservative man who's part of it here.
Yeah.
You can have a word with him after the meeting.
Well, of course I will do, but I don't want you thinking, I started off this about trust. I don't want you thinking that I'm going to be promising you something I can't deliver.
So you said you can't deliver it then?
So if you let me finish, you know, the point I'm trying to make to you is that of course I will write on your behalf. I write on behalf of my constituents on a daily basis on a variety of issues. Invariably those letters go to the council. Alright? The point I'm trying to make is one, I am not going to promise I can achieve something I cannot necessarily deliver. And two, as you saw evidence of this evening, when you actually asked the person who knew the subject, you got the answers you wanted. And I'm trying to actually go round the constituency to say to people on these issues, the first port of call is the councillor and the council, because they will have more information. If you don't get what you want, or if you feel that you've been ignored, and I must say it does happen, some of the councillors don't answer all the emails, don't respond to telephone calls. In those circumstances, you contact me, and then I rattle cages. That's the best order. That's the appropriate way to go about things. It's the way to get the answers and the information you want.
So does that go for me in the bedroom tax as well? If I've
The
written to
bedroom tax
you, and I've written to Michael, and I've written to Mary as well.
Can I just say something? You wrote to me, and I responded to all your emails, and I also made sure, and I said to you, this is private, I can't say this.
Yeah, but at the end
But
of
I
the
did
day, so
respond.
what I'm saying is then, it's like just a case of sit there and wait, and if a family with an autistic child end up on the streets, they end up on the street.
You will never end up on the street. And
I know Steve Webb did put in that if you're made, if you're homeless,
Yes.
it's just because of the bedroom tax, you're not.
Yes, there are, exactly. The point, if we try and move on, the point I would say is that the actual implementation of the policy that's brought about your situation is my responsibility. Okay, you are right to come to me if you're pissed off about the bedroom tax. You come to me. You can turn on a meeting like this. You can have a go at me about that policy because I voted for it. Okay, and I will then try to say why I voted for it and defend it. The ramifications of the policy, i.e., whether there is a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom flat for you to go to, is Michael's responsibility and the council's responsibility.
Like Michael.
Okay, so there's an example of the division of responsibility there. Is that Michael might despise me for creating a headache for doing something national, but that's actually where I am in the scheme of things, is that we create policy that can have local impact. Of course it can.
So Michael's now heard this. Michael will then take it forward. Michael will then get back to me. Is that fair?
Or you can speak directly to the council itself.
I have.
And then if there's a problem with that, you liaise with Michael.
Michael telling me they have responded. There you go. So I'll wait to hear back from
I've
you on
responded
that
to
one.
your email, we'll take it offline.
Okay, all right.
That's helpful.
Now,
Do you want to?
before you do that, at the beginning of this conversation, you said you were aware of local issues
Yes.
because you'd seen letters about
Yes. Yes.
You've just told me that you weren't aware of local issues.
No, I didn't say that, sir. I said I wasn't aware of a significant number of letters. Okay, I get. Trust me, you're more than welcome to come and spend a week with me, sir, in Westminster. You will see the nature of the correspondence I received. If I reacted to every letter, if I had 2 or 3 letters on an issue, I just wouldn't get anywhere. I wouldn't be doing anything. I have to wait until there is a body of evidence, which is usually double figures, of people saying this is a problem. And the interesting thing was, sir, I wasn't even told by the Executive Council last week that there was an issue up here with regards to the sub shop. So this, the people on the council didn't bring it up as an issue. So forgive me if I'm not aware of it. They're not. They seemingly didn't think it was an issue.
Okay, that's fine, I can re-watch the video, but I'm pretty certain at the beginning of this you were talking
Fine, sir. Anyway, we need to move on. This gentleman at the front has been waiting.
Good evening. I'm aware that our Prime Minister is planning to offer a referendum to us all after the next general election on whether in fact we should remain as members of the European Union. I'd be grateful if you could tell us your feelings on this subject and why you think what you think.
Okay. Yeah, as it currently stands, legislation for it to occur in 2018 if there is a Conservative majority government. That's the policy as it stands. My position on our membership vis-à-vis Europe, which I think was what your question is about, is that there's an inevitability to there need to be a referendum on this issue. Not least of which because you have to be over about 55 now to have ever voted on a referendum regards our relationship with Europe, and I think there is a democratic deficit. Those of us who are under 55 have never had a say. So if we feel strongly about it or not, we have had a say. I think there is a need to address that. I actually think, when I look at Europe, I think that there's a delusional air to European politics. I think at the moment, I was away for a weekend with German politicians 2 weeks ago, and they're edging towards a more Eurosceptic position every time I see them. The numbers don't add up. The Mediterranean is separating from Northern Europe economically. So the whole thing is in flux. And I think Britain, broadly speaking at the moment, is pretty Eurosceptic. And I'm not sure if there was a yes-no tomorrow what the result would be. I think it would be quite close, actually, because I think most people would be fearful of leaving 100%. My feeling at the moment is that I would like to try and renegotiate significantly. I would rather go back to more of a nation state than being part of a super state. My fear, though, is that the members won't give us what we need. So there is a sense that we're going to leave, because we will want back powers on immigration and all these things which people get upset about, and they won't allow us to have it, because it's all gone. If one votes against, it doesn't happen. So, if we've tried to renegotiate, and we haven't got anywhere near what the British people want, and you can probably sense that, you can certainly sense it in Bracken constituency, because it's pretty Eurosceptic, actually, Bracken, you detect it, which is surprising considering how international the businesses are. It's counterintuitive that people would be Eurosceptic in this area, because there's lots of businesses that are based here that are European Panasonic, the European based Panasonic. There is a deep-seated suspicion about Europe that I detect. And I have a feeling if we don't get back enough, sir, that I would probably, if there was a campaign, I would be campaigning to leave. But I don't want to. Do you understand where I am on it? I actually don't want to leave because I want to be part of a common market. I want to be part of something. You know, there's sort of cross-border issues like the environment and international crime and things which don't recognise borders. I want that relationship. The problem is that the people driving the European Union sort of model, it's very French, it's very sort of the social model, it's just not sustainable, and it's much more than I think the British people are comfortable with. And that tension is going to come to bear at some point. So I hope that's a clear enough answer.
Hi, yeah, this is very much a Westminster question. So I work with a lot of local businesses that are sort of growing, you know, and luckily most of them are actually growing very fast, particularly around the Reading area where you've got sort of the companies growing, actually they can't even find people to hire, which is, again, that's a massive skills, which I'm sure you know all about. But my real question is about finance. So I now don't go to banks anymore, so when they're looking for money, I talk to angels, I talk to some of these alternative financial places like Funding Circle, and I just wonder when we're getting to a stage where the coalition realises that banks are just basically there for checks and for taking cash out, they really do need to be bypassed, and I think we need to see, and the government's already started doing it through Funding Circle, but I'd like to sort of wonder whether the government's starting to realise that there really is no point in making lending easier to banks because they won't pass it on. You know, they've been told to shore up their balance sheet. So is there any sort of initiatives in Westminster to sort of get the money directly to the businesses and just basically cut out the banks totally? Because I think that's where it needs to go.
That's a good question. I think there are initiatives aplenty trying to get money down to business because banks, I mean, I get it, I hear it all the time. I visit businesses quite a lot with Bracken, and they're all saying the same thing, that they can't get the money and they want to grow, but they can't, they want to lend them the money. And the banks are desperately trying to build up their balance sheets because of what happened last time round, so they're trying to their capital to lending ratios and all this sort of stuff. So yes, there are, the problem here is that how much can government do? My position was I don't think we should have bailed out the banks. Okay, I was against, philosophically against bailing out the banks because of the moral hazard of it. Essentially what happened was you nationalised debts. And some people, basically a small number of people, went off into the sunset with vast amounts of money in their pockets. And I thought that that was fundamentally wrong. And I also thought that it was anti-capitalist, because essentially a capitalist structure relies upon failure as well as success. And so if you're just going to step into an industry and bail them out, by definition, that means you're saying they can't fail. Well, if the shop, I don't want to go back to that issue, but if a shop sets up in Jennett Park and it fails, it closes. But apparently banks are different. And I think that was fundamentally wrong. And the problem now, and this feeds into your question, is that the banks, which we predominantly own, are now trying desperately to deal with the positions that they're in, the toxic debts they've had. So they're keeping all that money. All that time we print that money, they sort of keep it because they're trying to deal with their balance sheets. And perversely, we should all want them to deal with their balance sheets because we own them. We have shares of them. Not that we have much choice in investing in these things, but we all own shares in these banks. So we perversely want them to be cautious because we don't want them to get into debt, because we don't want them to be worth less than they actually are, which is not very much. So we're in this conundrum, which is what I thought we would be in, because that's what happens when governments intervene in markets. of pumping money into something, and the money we want the money to come out to help the businesses that you're successfully supporting or setting up. I mean, we had 250 new businesses in Bracknell alone in the first 6 months of last year. You know, we're really lucky around here, actually. I mean, it's a vibrant area, but there is a problem. A lot of people are now borrowing from family and friends. They go into other sources of income, or they're actually using their own money, what money they have. I can't give you a detailed answer in terms of actual policies that are trying to bypass banks. There are some issues. They've got some bank lending issues, but it is still through banks.
You mentioned the printing money thing. Actually, I mean, that's a good point. So, what's happening at the moment is when the bank does print money, it's buying corporate bonds in the large businesses. And those businesses have already got loads of cash.
Absolutely.
So actually, it's got to somehow find a way of printing money and getting it.
I'm personally supply side type tolerant. So by that I mean, if it was up to me, I'd get rid of capital gains tax the best I could. I'd reduce small business tax right down. I really liked the national insurance tax break in the budget, which basically took £2,000 per employee. And even if we could afford it, I'd scrap corporation tax, because all that tax does is lead to people posting things in Luxembourg and Ireland. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed when you look at your credit card bills, but you know, if you buy a BlackBerry app, I noticed today on my credit card bill that I bought a BlackBerry app, and it said Luxembourg on my credit card bill. Why did it say Luxembourg? It says Luxembourg because of corporation tax avoidance. So every time you buy a BlackBerry app, that company is avoiding corporation tax in this country. So my approach to what you're saying is I would rather give you more money by not taking it away in the first place. And I would allow businesses to thrive because their tax burden in the first 5 years